Thank you for joining us for this session today. We are really excited to be here with you all. My name is Lauren Nicholas. I'm a reading interventionist and coach at Waverly Elementary.
And my name is Carrie Prola. I'm a behavior interventionist and coach here at Waverly as well.
Today we're going to be sharing how we've utilized brain state regulation routines for behavioral responses.
Okay, just a little bit about our school. We are located in Waverly Elementary, or Illinois, which is about 30 miles southwest of Springfield. We are a small rural district with only 2 buildings. Our elementary building houses pre-K through 6th grade students with a total of 156 students. We are a Title I school with most students qualifying for free or reduced lunch. And we began implementing PBAS in 2021, and we have been working in committee since to score higher on all of our TFI items.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the TFI item 1.7, responses to contextually inappropriate behavior. And I'll go ahead and just go through what would get you a score of 4. So the continuum needs to include and emphasize functionally relevant instructional and restorative responses, with at least 70% of staff members reporting consistent and equitable use. Policies would restrict the use of out-of-school suspensions only to behaviors with safety concerns. A standard protocol for supporting students in crisis until more intensive supports can be put in place exists, with all staff trained and supported to de-escalate crisis behaviors effectively. And finally, restrictive procedures such as restraint would be eliminated, or if used or allowed, it actively monitored for reduction.
And this is our teacher versus office managed behaviors. This is a part of our MTSS handbook. So you can see which behavior, who would deal with that, and then also our continuum of responses to that inappropriate behavior. You can go ahead and go to the next one. So the continuum here begins with nonverbal communication, and then we move to the reteach and practicing school-wide expectations. Then our regulate, relate, reason, brain state steps. Next is using functionally relevant strategies to address the behavior, and then after that is natural consequences and parent communication. If all of those are utilized, the next step would be to then get the behavior interventionist or the principal involved to support.
Prior to having all teachers in our school implement the regulation routine, we presented a professional development to all staff about how to respond to student behavior using the brain state model. It's from Conscious Discipline, and to sum it up, both children and adults are functioning from one of these 3 brain states at all times. So the lowest brain state is the brain stem, which is highlighted in red. And this is where we're panicked, we're scared, we're in fight or flight, and the underlying need is safety. So we as teachers can provide that to students by taking deep breaths with them and allowing them to do the regulation routine. The second brain state is highlighted in blue. It's the limbic system, and this is where kids are asking, are things going my way? Am I getting what I want? And when kids are in this state, a lot of times they're whiny. They might not be the most polite. And so what they're seeking is connection. And we as teachers can provide that through empathy, which widens their window of tolerance. And then the highest brain state where we want kids to be able to learn at school is the prefrontal cortex, which is highlighted in green. This is where kids are ready to learn, they're ready to reason. We as teachers can help them learn how to problem solve and learn how to do new skills. And that's the goal. But if kids come to us not regulated and in one of the lower brain states, then the regulation routine that we'll share today can help them move up to get to that green area. Regulation routine was inspired by the conscious discipline safe place steps, but we created this routine with our district in mind, with more updated research and evidence-based practices. So these 4 steps are: I breathe, I feel, I notice, and I move.
So the first step is I breathe. And this is where we teach the kids, to take deep breaths using their hand and their finger. As they go up, they take a deep breath in their nose, and then they go out and breathe out through their mouth at a slow pace. After a while, kids can go to the regulation station and do this, but after, practice and, years of doing this, or maybe not even years, but they can do that at their own seat. That's the goal, is that we hope once they get it down that they know, okay, my first step is to take a deep breath, because we know not all kids are going to always be willing to go to that calm corner or that regulation station. So,
the second step is I feel. This is where students name it to tame it, which is a phrase that was coined by Dr. Dan Siegel. His research showed that simply identifying how you're feeling can actually decrease the emotional intensity when dysregulated. And we chose this resource because it aligned with the zones of regulation that our students were already familiar with. So we liked that it is organized by color, and it provides a good visual, and it has the word written underneath as well.
Okay, this is our body map. This is how I notice. So this is an interactive visual. They're attached by little pieces of Velcro. So after students have named their emotion, then they are to recognize how their body is feeling. So they pick whichever sensation, and then they Velcro it onto that body part. So if their legs are shaky, that they'd move shaky to their legs. We're hoping that this helps connect their body with feeling and sensations, because sometimes feeling is not always like a physical thing. And we hope that, I think it helps them ground as well. If they can name their feeling and then they can feel that in their body, it kind of is a grounding help too.
The last step is I move. This step was inspired by research that I've done about how somatic therapy and somatic techniques are more effective than regular talk therapy because it uses a bottom-up approach. So humans are mammals, and mammals typically shake after experiencing a fight or flight experience to dispel the energy from their body. And humans have trained ourselves out of this over hundreds of years for various reasons. And what happens when we don't complete the fight or flight response is that it gets stuck in our fascia and our muscles. And this is where the phrase in the book, "The Body Keeps Score," comes from. So this step is really important because it teaches kids that when we use our body to help regulate, it can help us feel better, stay regulated, and even process trauma. I got this particular resource from Etsy. It includes cards made from a physical and occupational therapist where she uses different techniques like proprioception, crossing the midline, and sensory input, and compares it to animal movements that are really engaging and effective with kids. So some of them include shake like a dog, hum like a bee, stretch like a giraffe. And what we instruct kids to do is think about the sensations in their body, think about what would feel good to their body. And kids are actually really intuitive in terms of how they can use movement to dispel the emotional energy and move forward. And we have this just on a little key ring that kids can flip through, choose one or two of them to do, and then it really helps them regulate afterwards. To make it easy for teachers to implement the regulation routine in their classroom, we developed a series of lessons that matched each step, and they teach them at the beginning of school year and after winter break. And each one follows the same pattern. It starts with a read aloud and discussion, and then the second step is introducing the what the step is, the poster for it, and how to use it. Kids then use a cooperative learning activity to practice the step. And then all of the lessons end with one or two students role playing what it looks like to go to the regulation station and do the regulation routine. As a part of our professional development to get teachers on board, we created this flow chart to help them understand that while the ultimate goal is for kids to be able to do this independently, that's not what it's going to look like in practice with 100% of students right off the bat. So kind of like how we think about our 3 tiers with MTSS, we think about students' ability to access the regulation routine similarly. So our tier 1 is going to be students who can ask to go on their own or be invited to go, and they can do all of the steps independently, successfully, and then rejoin the classroom. The tier 2 is going to be students who need a little bit of help initially co-regulating, and then they're able to go to do the rest of the steps on their own. And what we tell teachers to do to co-regulate with them is to take a few deep breaths while holding their hands, if they'll let you, and kind of squeezing their hands for that sensory input, and then repeating the affirmation, I am safe, I can handle this. And this should take like 30 seconds to a minute, and then those kids will be able to go do it on their own. Our tier 3 are the students that are going to be already receiving behavior supports, and they're going to be students that are a little bit more out of control when they're in crisis. So these students are going to, when they get to that point, the teacher is going to need to call in the specialist, whoever is providing them supports, or even the principal. It will be kind of our crisis routine, whether it is evacuating the classroom or the dysregulated student leaving the classroom. But the thing is with these students is that if they practice this enough when they're regulated, they will eventually be able to access it when they're dysregulated, just like we teach kids to do when we're doing fire drills and different things like that. So with enough practice, they will be able to move up and eventually do it on their own.
So this is an example of what it would look like in a classroom. We have every room, office, every classroom, PE, music has these posters. The older grades, their posters look a little bit different. But this is, the example and the layout, calming corner, regulation station, whatever you want to call it. And we really practice this and try to preach that it's a calming, safe space, not like you're acting out, go to the corner, so to speak. So we really try to have everybody word it and practice it as it is a safe space and a calming area instead of a punishment. So this was really important to our school because we wanted to help, especially I feel like after COVID, teachers and students regulate and learn how to do that with after coming back to school and all of the things. So, the routines and the strategies are backed by research. They seem, at first, I think, there was a little kickback like, oh, this isn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. But just like with anything, if you do it consistently, and with fidelity, then it has been helping. So we wanted to set this up to allow students and teachers for success. So for using tools that they can use the rest of their lives and how to, I think it's helped teachers too, because, we weren't taught these things necessarily in school, and how to always regulate ourselves, and then that affects how the kids respond. So
the work that went into this included developing the regulation routine steps and choosing the resources we used for the posters, creating the lessons. We also prepared and distributed all of the posters for each classroom to the teachers to take that off their plate. So that was a lot of cutting, printing, laminating. We did the professional development we've kind of talked about with teachers beforehand. And then our work right now is really just trying to make sure there's consistent use across grade levels.
Okay, and then our impact. So we decreased our ODRs by over half. We had 150 last school year, and at the end of March, we were at 56. 100% of students and staff have taught and learned the regulation routine when we did our walkthrough. Student knowledge and recall, this was the first year that we implemented it, so our baseline, our full mastery is, we went from 13% to 18%, so obviously, we're still, wanting to see that go up some more. And then with partial understanding, we went from 50 to 80%. So, and then we are better at responding after a student gets to a crisis point, with teachers and staff. We have decreased the need to clear classrooms. And, overall, we have more regulated adults and kids in the building. Okay, just a little bit. I don't know if you can zoom in here. So, gosh, I can barely read it.
This is I'm going to jump in.
Go ahead, jump in.
I know we need to
My
do
eyes
the
are old.
Q&A in a second, but this is our walkthrough data. It includes, this one is the student walkthrough data. So our kids know our values. We need to get better as a school at passing out our acknowledgement system. Students, it's 87% of students reported that they were taught the regulation routine. All teachers taught it. So for a few of our kids, especially the younger ones, I think they just forgot or they didn't necessarily know what we were referring to. But we were excited about this student walkthrough data. And then the next slide is our staff walkthrough data. So our staff knows our Viper values, passes out the acknowledgement system, taught the expectations and the regulation routine, and giving specific feedback. So we were excited to see this after our first full year of implementing the regulation station. Right now, where we're at, we currently have our continuum that includes and emphasizes functionally relevant instructional and restorative responses. What we don't have is a district level policy that says that out of school suspensions are only for safety concerns. So that's kind of our next step where we can increase that TFI score for our school and our district.
And then lastly, this is just kind of like some recommendations for any schools that are just getting started or looking to get better. Those are some things that you could do to that the steps that we kind of did to help get us going off the ground. But that, I think, wraps it up. We're ready for questions and answers.